B-boys and B-girls, be ready because there's going to be a battle royale in the City of Lights this summer at the Summer Olympics in Paris. I'm John Paulus. You're listening to Life's Potluck Buffet. On today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the Olympic sport of breaking, which I'm really excited about. Some Olympic demonstration sports that don't happen anymore, and I'm glad they don't. Some that I wish that they still did. And one sport that, though it would make a lot of sense, is not going to happen in Paris for interesting reasons. So stick around for today's medal ceremony on Life's Potluck Buffet, only on YouTube. If you're enjoying Life's Potluck Buffet, please subscribe. If you've already subscribed, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And if you have a Brave browser, you can now contribute basic attention tokens to Life's Potluck Buffet with John Paulus on YouTube. Thank you for your support, and thank you for listening. Let's start with breaking. So breakdancing started in the South Bronx in the United States, in New York City, and back in the day, maybe in the 70s. Really hit a peak in the 80s and kind of caught fire and spread worldwide. And now in 2024, it's going to be an Olympic event with lots of people coming from around the world to compete. I think you have to have a ruling body in 50 countries, or that represents 50 countries or more, in order for something to qualify to be in the Olympics. And so break dancing made it in 2024. If you're wondering why this isn't you'd think, well, normally these demonstration sports happen in countries where the sports are associated with strongly. So, for example, in the Seoul Olympics back in the 80s, in 88, the Taekwondo was a sport that was included. And also in the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles, California, in the United States, there's going to be baseball and softball are going to be included again. And so, there's usually a reflection of the country, which is really interesting because, well, okay, let me ask you this question. When you think about the streets of Paris or of other cities in France and an activity, a street-related activity, what do you think of? You may think of nothing because you may not be familiar with it, but I think of parkour, parkour is the first word of a phrase in French that means, well, basically obstacle course. And if you've ever seen parkour, you know that it is associated strongly with France. Now, there's a reason that parkour will not be appearing in the Summer Olympics in 2024. It seems to be a little bit complex, and all of the details of it are not clear because I can't tell whether the Olympic Committee decided not to include it and figured out a way not to include it, or if the Olympic Committee really was just following the kind of straight-by-the-book rules and didn't include parkour. I suspect that they didn't want to include it, and I'll tell you why. The parkour was going to be presented by the FIG, which is the International Federation. It's in French, but it's the International Federation of Gymnastics. So parkour was going to be brought into the Olympics, or was the International Federation that governs gymnastics, all forms of gymnastics that you'll see at the Olympics. They wanted to also include parkour. But an important parkour organization, I think it's called Parkour Earth, really took offense at this because it was a kind of corporate takeover of the sport and culture and so forth of parkour in their minds. The Parkour Earth and others who participate in parkour don't view it as a competitive activity. In fact, the opposite. They see it as being totally um, unfriendly to the idea of a kind of having a gold medal competition. So when the parkour organizations heard about the federation that governs gymnastics and was going to try to introduce parkour, was introducing parkour into the 2024 Paris Olympics, they were they took offense at this and asked the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, to not include parkour in the 2024 Olympics, to refuse the admission of parkour by the International Federation of Gymnastics into the Olympics. And in fact, the International Olympic Committee decided to reject the proposal of the FIG, the gymnastics governing body, to introduce parkour into the 2024 Olympics as a medal competition. They don't. You might remember that back in the day, there were things that were called demonstration sports. My favorite was ski ballet, which happened. Where was it? I think it was in the Winter Olympics in Albertville in France, and that was really cool. That was nice. But and part of that was it was brought in with other like freestyle skiing, which stuck around as a medal sport. And this was the kind of part of the official reason why the IOC didn't allow parkour. It was because the FIG already had a lot of competitors already in the competition. It wouldn't allow it to introduce a sport that required competitors outside of the competitors who are already coming as part of their competitions, and it's because it adds extra competitors to already packed, Olympic Village, and it's just the numbers are too great. So they use that. I think they use that and a couple of other reasons as like technical reasons for why they were refusing to allow the FIG to put parkour in the Summer Olympics in 2024. I wonder if there was also a feeling that maybe Parkour Earth and the parkour community that was saying, please do not put this in the Olympics. I wonder if they were listening to that community. I think that they may have been, or that might have been in the back of their minds. So I guess it's something to celebrate that parkour is not in the Summer Olympics, even though it would certainly, if the parkour community were excited about it, then that would be totally awesome. I think the break dancing community is excited about it. I've tried to find if there was any dissent to including breakdancing from any parts of the breakdancing community for the Olympics, but I haven't run into anything. I've watched some videos of some breaking competitions, and there's one I'll put in the description that was part of the Red Bull games, and it's one of the breakers featured is Logistics. It's Logistx, and it's kind of a two-person competition. It's like doubles. There are two persons on each side of the battle, and so I want to read to you what Logistics says, because from stuff I've read about breaking, from the very beginning, there's always been an emphasis on the community and culture and so forth, rather than breaking just being an art or a sport. And what Logistics says is breaking is most definitely not just a sport and an art, but also a culture and a community. That's one misconception we want to prevent as much as possible. Viewers should know that breaking is not just a sport, but also has creative and social aspects that make it different from a sport. One of the reasons I know that the IOC included, or I've read that the IOC included breaking, is because they're really needing to attract young people to care about the Olympics, and this is one attempt by the IOC to actually try to do something that they think might be appealing to younger folks. We'll see what happens. Uh, I'll definitely be excited to see the breaking that happens in Paris, if only to watch some just incredible dancing. I feel like they should also add to the breaking competition a DJing competition because, and this would be in line with Olympic competitions and similar competitions in the ancient world where there were musical competitions as well. So why not have not only the break dancing judge but also maybe the DJ who's doing the music. Maybe each side could provide their own DJ that does their music. That would be so it can kind of be a DJ battle as well. Maybe that would just add too many complications to this whole thing. So we'll see how it works as is and see what happens in the future. So that's breaking. It will be an optional medal sport. And optional just means that optional was the replacement for the demonstration sports. So everything's a medal sport now that gets done in the Olympics. And that means that you don't need to include it. You can include it if you wish as an optional medal sport, and there are sports that can be included and not. That means there are sports that are mandatory, but that's a whole different story, and you're probably familiar with many of those. Now, the one sport I just want to say that I am glad is not included in the Olympics is the seemingly absolutely absurd sport of dueling with pistols, which was in the 1906 Olympics in Athens, was a sport where they used target dummies, and it was kind of like that was cool, and there were medals. But then in 1908 in London, they decided that, why have the people shoot at dummies when they could just shoot at each other? And so it was like like the duels of years gone by, where people would actually face each other and shoot at each other. But they used wax bullets, so don't worry. It wasn't like they were actually no one died in the 1908 Olympics because of the dueling competition. They also apparently had lots of protective equipment so that they wouldn't, shoot an eye out or just like get hurt with the wax bullets, which probably can do a lot of damage, as who knows, maybe even fatal. So that was a sport that, thank heavens, did not make it to the 1912 Olympic Games, and since then has never returned. And for that, I am eternally grateful for the International Olympic Committee for never thinking about adding dueling back into the Summer Olympics. Okay. So, and even better, they didn't do it in the Winter Olympics as ice dueling, which would have added a complication that really would have added to the absurdity of the whole idea. So, okay. Well, let's ask the cards who our medal winner is, who among them is going to win the medal for being today's card, and there are 55 cards in the deck. So here we go. That's more than 50, which is good. That means that we've got enough cards represented. Yellow lemons, blue dumplings, magenta noodles. Cards for the gold medal. Tell us something. Nope, it's card 10. When you too forcefully affirm or deny something, there is some truth to the opposite. So this is the whole protesting too much thing. When we repeatedly affirm or deny some claim about ourselves, we often misunderstand what we're saying. So when you find yourself really like either repeatedly or just really strongly denying some claim about yourself, listen to what you're really saying about yourself. And try that today. Look out for a time. It's easier sometimes to understand the times we repeat things about ourselves. We're constantly denying things about ourselves. Think about that maybe first, because sometimes it's hard to tell how forceful we are because we're in our own heads in a certain way, and so we can't tell how forceful we're being. But we can tell if we're repeating things if we pay attention. Or you can have someone who you trust tell you, say, and ask them, well, what do can you tell me when I'm denying or repeatedly affirming something about myself that it seems like I'm protesting too much, and they'll surely tell you. So give that a thought and give it a try, and I'll see you tomorrow on Life's Potluck Buffet.